And I think it's, as you rightly said, particularly on some of the mistakes we make as small business owners, these things are very important. So thank you for the informative session and very useful. Thank you. Okay, so good afternoon again, everyone. So the course we are taking this time is Leadership Essentials. Just to confirm if everyone can hear me clearly and if you can see my screen. Can you hear me? Check. If you're able to hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, how about the screen? Is it up?
Yes, it's up.
Okay. So as usual, welcome again. Let's get to know ourselves. I believe I've met most of you yesterday, but if we can still just unmute our mics, let's just get to know one another. Just your name, your profession, and your expectation for this course on Leadership Essentials. So just very quickly, just unmute your mic, or you can drop a chat, your name, what you do, what you're expecting from this class. So anyone can please feel free to go ahead and just take about 2 or 3, your name, what you do, and what you're expecting from this class.
Good evening, brothers and sisters.
Good evening.
Yes, my name is Samuel Ejumafomi. I'm a nurse by profession.
Okay.
And today is my first time of joining this beautiful session. Thank you so much for the opportunity. God bless you, sir.
You're welcome, Samuel. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for connecting. Any other person, 1 or 2 more people, your name, where you're connecting from, what you're expecting from this class. Okay, you can send it via chat. In the interest of time, I will just move on. A quick introduction of myself once again, particularly for those joining us today. So my name is Solomon, as Coach Korede mentioned. I've worked for over 9 years professionally across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And my work experience covers customer service, commercial strategy, planning, business, and the like. So I took the course on structuring a business yesterday. And it was very interesting for me also to hear when Sylvie was talking about basic accounting. It's really made lots of sense. My background is in business. I'm also a certified public speaker and have a leadership training certificate from Harvard University Summer School. And why am I sharing this? So I'm hopeful that what I'm going to be sharing with you, at least for my experience, knowledge, and training, you would find most of these things useful, and you would find them relatable and practical as we move on. Okay, I anticipate to cover the course in about 35 to 40 minutes, including questions. I would start with what leadership is all about, then what makes a leader, how then do you build leadership skills, then would close by reflecting on some of the points we discussed, and also if you've got any questions. And then at the end of the course, I would request a minute from you to get your feedback on how we can improve the course for the future and any other thing you think we could do better. We're going to start right away, although there's going to be a dedicated session for Q&A at the end of the course. Please feel free to stop me in between if you've got a question or if you've got a comment or point you would like to share. The content of the course today, I've made it quite simple and light so we can have enough time to discuss and interact, because leadership is something that is practical. It's not just a case of copying notes. Why is the subject of leadership so important? And why is it important that everyone understands leadership? As John Maxwell, many of us would know who John Maxwell is. If you don't, he's a leadership expert. He's the real leadership expert, while many of us were aspiring, like Coach Korede was. He's the real leadership expert. And he said, everything rises and falls on leadership. And the key word there is everything, even including your business. As a business owner, as a career person, we need to understand that our business cannot grow beyond the level of our personal knowledge at the early stage of the business. Because the business at the early stage is almost you. It takes your level of knowledge to be able to grow the business into a company eventually that would become a standalone entity. But that would only happen if you have the solid leadership skills to advance the business, to scale the business from startup into a point that the business becomes a company and it becomes standalone. At the same way, if you are doing a career, you're employed, your level at that career cannot grow beyond your level of knowledge. And that's why everything rises and falls on leadership. Your ability to lead yourself, your ability to lead others, everything rises and falls on leadership. And that's why it's very important that everyone understands the subject of leadership. Now, someone might ask, what is leadership? We've talked about why leadership is important. What is leadership? I think to understand what leadership is, we need to compare it to what leadership is not. Because we see so many people today and we think that's what leadership is. Now, the first thing we need to keep in mind is that leadership is not about titles. What makes a person a leader is not because the person has a title. Leadership is about taking responsibility. And what this means is that in your place of work or even in your own business, you might not have the title of CEO. You might not have the title of vice president. You might not have the title of head of department. It's not the title that makes you a leader. What makes you a leader is taking responsibility. And someone might wonder, what is responsibility? Responsibility simply means responding to your ability. What do I mean? If you're in an organization, even in your business, if you have the ability to do a task and you have the availability, you have the time as well, then respond to that ability by doing the task. So by taking responsibility in that situation, you're a leader, even if you don't have the title of head of department, for example. Are we following? Just to be sure. Can I just get a comment or a chat? Okay, thank you, sir. The next thing that's important to note is that leadership is not about position. Leadership is about influence. Now, many of us, we have this mentality that we need to get to a certain level of position before we can start some things. It's actually the other way around. We can already start making influence in your own little way. Now, somebody might wonder, what Coach Kurede is doing is amazing. But when I get big and I will do the same thing, you can already start. Now, just by sharing this Zoom link for the class or by inviting someone for the class, you have influenced the person. And that's what leadership is all about. Leadership is not about a position. It's about influencing people, helping people become better. If you have the opportunity to help someone become better, you're a leader. The next thing that's important to keep in mind is that leadership is not control. Now, many of us think of leadership, I want to become a leader so you can become the boss. Leadership is all about service. As a leader, you are a servant. It's unfortunate today that many of the people we call leaders in the world today are not leaders. They are just people occupying a position. They are just people that are there for their own personal ambition. But real leadership is about service. And when you look at the Bible, you look at also leadership, notable leaders who are like John Maxwell, they make this point clear that when a call to leadership is a call to service, keep this in mind. It's not about control. If your goal is to be in control, if your goal is to be the boss, then then you're far from leadership. The last point on the slide that is very important is that leadership is not a talent. Leadership is a skill. Why is this point important? Many people think leaders are born, but research has shown us, and the reality is that leaders are made. Leaders are not born. Now, of course, there are people who have the natural ability to lead. However, everyone can learn the skills for leadership. In one of the courses we had in the phase 1 of this program, we talked about the business of talent and skills. Now, talent is something that comes naturally, something you are born with, whereas skill is something you acquire. Talent is a natural ability, skill is something to acquire. Now we are saying leadership is not a natural ability. No one is born as a leader. Leadership is a skill that you can acquire and you can improve upon. What this means is that everybody can be a leader. So look at yourself and tell yourself, I can be a leader. You can be a leader because it is a skill. It's just like learning how to drive. Driving is a skill. You can learn how to drive the same way you can learn how to lead. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a minute. Any question before we move on? Any question? Okay, let's move on. Now, what makes a leader? What makes a leader? We've talked about why leadership is important, what leadership is. Now, how do you start? What makes a leader? What would make you a leader? What are the key things you need to keep in mind as you start your journey towards leadership? There are two foundations of leadership. On one hand, you have the foundation of character. On the second hand, you have the foundation of competence. Two foundations of leadership. The starting point of leadership is character, your attitude. Now, a leader is someone who has integrity. And this is very important, even in business, particularly when you're starting out as a small business. People don't know you. You need to break into the market. You need to win the trust of the customers. At that point, your bond is your reputation. Your bond is your word. Meaning, if you tell your customer you will deliver in 2 days, you have to deliver in 2 days. Come rain, come shine, you have to ensure you deliver. If you tell your customer you're going to call them by so time, or this is what you will deliver, there's an agreement, you need to ensure that as much as possible, as much as you can, you deliver, because your word is your bond. What makes a leader is their integrity. This point is very important. Another thing about character is that leaders are visionary. You need to have a vision for yourself and for your business. Yesterday, when we were talking about structuring a business, around business philosophy, we talked about having a mission, the business purpose, and very importantly, having a vision. Where do you want to take your business to? If you don't know where you're going, anywhere will be like the place. In fact, you would not even know when you've arrived because you don't know where you're going. So you need to be a man of vision. Where are you going? Where do you want to take your business to? And have it written down. If you don't write it down, it's just a wish. Write it down. Now, leadership is also about courage. Now, particularly for those of us doing small businesses and the likes, there are times that things will get tough. But we know that tough times never last. Only tough people do. So leadership is about having the courage to go through. Having the courage to go through the tough times of starting the business. Having the courage to make the tough decisions. Having the courage to face your fears. Now, leadership is also all about humility. Now, many people think, oh, when they're in a position of leadership, they are the boss, they can do whatever they like, but actually the other way around. Because when you're a leader, there are so many things hanging on your neck that you need to, it takes a great deal of humility for you to remain in that position and for you to look beyond yourself. A couple of years ago, I was with one of my mentors. And then after the meeting, I was having a church service. So I told him, oh, I was going to pray for him when I get to church. And it was like, I was going to pray for wisdom. And he told me, I shouldn't pray for wisdom. I was like, okay, I mean, everyone needs wisdom. Why would you not want me to pray for wisdom? And he told me I should pray for humility. Because this was someone at a director level, over 200 people under you. And he says at that stage, because you are like in that boss seat, and whatever, you can just decide to just cancel this person, and the next day the person is fired. You have that kind of power. But at that level, it takes a great deal of humility to not let the power get into your head. Leadership is about humility. And the final point here on the character bit is leadership is about continuous learning. Now, leadership is business for life. Is for life. So leadership is not something that you do for 2 months. It's a lifelong commitment. And as such, you need to have an open mindset to learn continuously. You need to have an open mindset to be flexible on even how you do your business. Years ago, it was pure traditional. No one cared about the internet. But now, if you are not online, you are not visible. So as a leader, you need to learn continuously and be willing to move with the changes that happen in your industry and also in your line of work. Now, on the competence part, it is not enough to be a good person. You also need to be a person that can deliver. Leadership is not just about being a nice person. At some point, you need to deliver results. You need to deliver results. And for that, you need skills like emotional intelligence, being aware of your own self, and awareness of others around you. As a leader, regardless of the job you're doing, regardless of your field, you need to be able to communicate. Because you need to be able to communicate your vision, communicate what you're doing. Also, leadership is about people. So as a leader, you must learn how to build and manage relationships, how to work with people, how to relate with people, how to deal with tough people. You also need to learn management skills. And that's why, I mean, if you look at the curriculum of what Coach Korede is doing, is to build you all around. Because someone is saying, I'm into baking, what concerns me with accounting? It concerns you like we have seen in the course. Vision, purpose, these things are important because as a leader, you need to have these skills to be able to manage resources, manage situations, manage events, and very importantly, decision making. Now, many of us, we assume we know how to make decisions because we just grow naturally. I need to do A or B. But as we grow, we realize that many of us are in a situation today because of the decisions we've made. In fact, where we are today is because of the decision we made yesterday. And decision making is a skill you can be better at. Life is not always A or B. We grew up, some of us grew up with that mentality that you either do A or you do B. But it's not so. You can do A and B. In fact, you can do A, B, C. Someone might be saying, should I start a business or should I get a job? It's not a case of either or. You could do both in parallel. You could do A first and do B later. All this comes with decision-making skills. It is not about choosing A, it's not either or. Decision-making. But they haven't said all on what makes a leader. The key point we need to keep in mind is integrity. I love this quote by Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world. He said, you are looking for 3 things generally in a person. Number 1 is intelligence, number 2, energy, and the third thing is integrity. It says, and if they don't have the last one, don't even bother with the first two. So if you see someone that is very intelligent, passionate, and energetic, if they don't have integrity, they will not go far. So no matter how intelligent you are in your business, no matter how skillful you are in your business, if you lack integrity, the business will not go far. Very important point. Moving on, how do you build leadership skills? We've said at the beginning that leadership is a skill, and because it is a skill, you can learn how to be a leader, and you can learn how to become a better leader. The number one thing I would recommend is books. Now, as a leader or as an aspiring leader, you have to love reading. There's no way about it. You have to. You have to. If you want to commit to this leadership thing and be better in life and in your business, you have to read. So the first way to build your leadership skills is through books. And on the picture here, there are some good books I would recommend. I mean, if these are books some of you might have read, but if not, try to get any of those books. If you can't get two of them or even all of them. Starting with the one in the middle, An Enemy Called Average by John Mason. It's a powerful book. It's a powerful book that challenges you on how you can become a better person. John C. Maxwell, Laws of Leadership. Powerful book. It talks about different points on leadership, the law of the lead. You cannot rise above your own leadership level, the law of growth. You need to continue to grow as a leader. Powerful insights from the book. Another book that is wonderful is Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Leadership is a people business. You are dealing with people. It's a very good book. So the starting point is start reading these books. What books do is that they open your mind. Now, the thing about leadership success, doing well, is that if you don't change internally, you can't really see sustainable change externally. It was James Allen that said, a man cannot travel within and stand still without. If something changes inside you, you will start seeing changes around you. Take time to invest in knowledge. Another way you can build your leadership skills is by attending training and seminars like this. Nothing would come natural. Leadership skills does not just come natural. It needs effort. It's just like nobody is born and the person knows how to drive naturally. Yeah, you might have the idea, but to be a good driver, you need to learn. The same thing with leadership. Seminars like this, training programs like this are ways you can learn leadership skills. Another thing is volunteer. Now, in your business or in your community around you, volunteer. In your church, you can volunteer in a service unit. Remember, leadership is service. By volunteering, you are sharpening your leadership skills. You are learning how to deal with people. You are learning how to deal with situations. The thing is that if you tell yourself you don't know how to do it, you would never know how to do it. In fact, the way to do it is by doing it. So you need to put yourself in situations that are not always comfortable, where you can learn and stretch yourself. So you might say, oh, you're giving, or maybe they are calling for volunteers for a particular task, and you tell yourself, I can't do it. But that's the way to learn how to do it. So in summary, 3 ways you can build your leadership skills: through books, secondly, through training and seminars like this, third, volunteer. Okay, and I believe that's it for today in terms of the class. I hope you had a good time. Just before we close, let's get into the interactive session. You can please unmute your mics and let's just open the floor, or you can send via chat. One thing you've learned today, one thing you would implement, and one thing you will stop doing.
Okay, it is important for us to engage. It is important because that is why it's a class. It's not a congress. It's not a conference. It's a class. So please unmute or use the chat, or else, as I'm looking at you on my screen, I'll be calling you one after the other. Our facilitator has done a very good job. Okay, I will call everyone. Irene, I can see you. Let me start from you. I think you've been on the chat. So let me start from you.
Happy Sunday, everyone. So I know that you must call me first.
Because we are a leader.
Exactly.
Actually, I was typing something, but I'll just say it out.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. I've really learned from the session. And I want to ask, like, talking about courage, how do you mount courage? Let's say you're working with, most of the people you're working with, they are your seniors, and maybe in that organization, you are the leader there. So things are not being done right, and you don't want